Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyas. नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिके ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 2, Daksa curses Lord Shiva. So yesterday we just read through the verse 22. Here there is now cursing, counter cursing by Nandishvara, and he curses pretentiously religious householder life in which one is attracted to material happiness and also attracted to superficial explanation of the Vedas, robs one of the intelligence and attaches one to fruitive activities as all in all. So this is very important verse. This is how Vedavadarata Partha. So word also comes here, Vedavada. Bhagavad Gita also talks about this. Vedavadarata Partha Nanyadasti iti vadinha. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that typically people are attracted by the flowery language of the Vedas, which is describing so many of different sacrifices to enjoy the life in this life and in the next life. And thus, for the want of the enjoyment, Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam, they are bereft of the transcendental knowledge. Taya aparita chetasam. And such people are always very attached to Gramya Sukha, material happiness, without the knowledge of Satchidananda, the Supreme Law. So this is how Nandishwara, he cursed Gruheshu Kuta Dharmeshu Satyo Gramya Sukhechaya. Text 23. Buddhya parabhidhyayanya vismrityatmagati pashu stri kamah swastu tiramam daksho pastamukha achirat. Translation.
Daksha has accepted the body as all in all. Therefore, since he has forgotten the Vishnu Pada or Vishnu Gati and is attracted to sensual life only, within a short time he will have the face of a goat. Hare Krishna.
So this is Nandishwara is saying that Saiva Gokharaha, he has already become so absorbed in the bodily consciousness that very soon, and he has completely forgotten the Vishnu Pada, Vishnu Gati, and therefore extremely attached to the life of sense gratification, Daksha will have a face of goat. So this is being forecasted by Nandishwara in this verse. Text 24. Vidya buddhira vidyayam karmamayyam asau jadaha sansarastu iho ye cha amum anusharva avamaninam. Translation.
Translation: those who have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence are nascently involved in fruitive activities. Such men have purposely insulted Lord Shiva. May they continue in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Purport: The three curses mentioned above are sufficient to make one as dull as stone, void of spiritual knowledge, and preoccupied with materialistic education, which is nescience. After uttering these curses, Nandishvara then cursed the Brahmanas to continue in the cycle of birth and death because of their supporting Daksha in blaspheming Lord Shiva. Hare Krishna.
So not only Nandishvara, he cursed Daksha. Nandishvara further said, you have become as dull as matter by cultivating materialistic education and intelligence, which are necessarily involved in fruitive activities. So this one can see, by cultivation of the material education, what happens is that one just becomes very dull in the spiritual understanding. People are not able to understand that they are not the body, they are the spirit soul. And Prabhupada, one point, Prabhupada says, please believe me when I say you are not the body, you are the spirit soul. Why? Because this Jada Chetana, Jada, the word comes here, that makes the intelligence very, very dull. Spiritual, materially, people may be very sharp, but spiritually, they will be extremely dull. And what will happen? When there is no other path in spiritual realm, people will always pursue the materialistic path, which is Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam. The entire intelligence will be dedicated to increasing one's Bhoga and increasing one's Aishwarya. That is the only thing. And if you want any doubt about this, just look at the Western civilization, especially the American leaders, the Bill Gates, and if you know their personal life, this is testimony. This verse is testimony. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that the three curses mentioned above are sufficient to make one dull as the stone. Now Nandishvara cursed the Brahmanas to continue samsaratanu, that is, cycle of birth and death, because of their supporting Daksha in blaspheming Lord Shiva. Text 25. गिरश्रुताया पुष्पिण्याः मधुगन्धेन भूरिणा मत्ना च उन्मथितात्मानां समुह्यन्ति हरद्विषः. Translation.
May those who are envious of Lord Shiva be attracted by the flowery language of the enchanting Vedic promises, and who have thus become dull always remain attached to fruitive activities. Purport: the Vedic promises of elevation to higher planets for a better standard of materialistic life are prepared to flowery language because in a flower there is certainly an aroma, but that aroma does not last for a very long time. In a flower there is honey, but that honey is not eternal. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So those who are envious of Lord Shiva, Haradvishaha. The word here is Haradvishaha, one who is Shivadrohi, or one who is envious of Lord Shiva. What will happen? They will be attracted by the flowery language of the Vedas. See, Vedavadartha Partha, right? Thus they will become dull and always remain attached to fruitive activities. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, the Vedic promise of elevation to the higher planets is very dear to people, because you do this yagya, you will go here, you will go there, and everything. But it is certainly very temporary. It is like the honey, the aroma and the honey, both are temporary. Why? Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti, tetvam bhuktva swargalokam vishadam. Kshine punye martyalokam vishanti. They have to again come back to this earthly planet, and this cycle bhutva bhutva praliyate continues to happen, for millions of years. The soul is just stuck into going up, coming down, so on and so forth. Text 26. सर्वभक्षा द्विजा वृत्यैः धृतविद्या तपोव्रताः वित्तदेहेन्द्रिया रामा याचका विचरन्तु इह. Translation.
These brahmanas take to education, austerity, and oaths only for the purpose of maintaining the body. They shall be devoid of discrimination between what to eat and what not to eat. They will acquire money begging from door to door, simply for the satisfaction of the body. Purport. The third curse inflicted by Nandishvara on the Brahmanas who supported Daksha is completely functioning in the age of Kali. The so-called Brahmanas are no longer interested in understanding the nature of Supreme Brahman. Although a Brahmana means one who has attained knowledge without one who has attained knowledge about Brahman. In the Vedanta Sutra, also it is stated, Atato Brahma Jignasa. This human form of life is meant for realization of the Supreme Brahman, the absolute truth. Or in other words, human life is meant for one's elevation to the post of a Brahmana. Unfortunately, the modern Brahmanas or so-called Brahmanas who come in originally Brahmanical families have left their own occupational duties, but they do not allow others to occupy the posts of Brahmanas. The qualifications for Brahmanas are described in the scriptures as in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and all other Vedic literatures. Brahmana is not a hereditary title or position. If someone from a non-Brahmana family, for example, one born in a family of Shudras, tries to become a Brahmana by being properly qualified under the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, these so-called Brahmanas will object. Such Brahmanas, having been cursed by Nandishvara, are actually in a position where they have no discrimination between eatables and non-eatables and simply live to maintain the perishable material body and its family. Such fallen, conditioned souls are not worthy to be called Brahmanas, but in Kali Yuga, they claim to be Brahmanas. And if a person actually tries to attain the Brahmanical qualifications, they try to hinder his progress. This is the situation in the present age. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu condemned this principle very strongly. During his conversation with Ramananda Roy, he said that regardless of whether a person is born in Brahmana family or Shudra family, regardless of whether he is a householder or a sannyasi, if he knows the signs of Krishna, he must be a spiritual master. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had many so-called Shudra disciples like Haridas Thakur and Ramanand Rai. Even the Goswamis, who were the principal students of Lord Chaitanya, were also ostracized from Brahmana society. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by his grace, made them first-class Vaishnavas. Thank you, Prabhu.
Nandishvara he further cursed the Brahmanas. After cursing Daksha, now Nandishvara is cursing Brahmanas. These Brahmanas will take to education, austerity and vow, Vidya, Tapa, Vrata, all these for the purpose of maintaining the body. They will be devoid of discrimination between what to eat and what not to eat. And thus, to acquire money, they will be begging from door to door simply for the satisfaction of the body. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains this curse of third curse indicated by Nandishvara is completely functional in the age of Kali. Who is a Brahmana? Right. Brahma janati iti Brahmana. So one who knows the absolute truth, vadanti tattva vidas, he is called as a Brahmana. So Brahmana is not a birth hereditary title that my father is Brahman, therefore I am Brahman. No. I have to acquire the Brahmanical position. Simply because I am doctor doesn't mean that my son, daughter, they also will be doctor. They have to go to the school, they have to acquire the qualification, and then they will be qualified doctor. Similarly, the case with the Brahmana also. So Prabhupada writes here, on one hand, those who are modern days Brahmanas, although they are coming from originally Brahmanical families, but have given up the activity of the Brahmana. What is the activity of Brahmana? Yajan, Patan Pathan, Dana Aparigraha. These are the qualities of the Brahmanas, activities of the Brahmanas. Qualities of the Brahmanas, we have already seen Kshamodama, Shautam, Kshanti Marjavamevacha. And these qualifications of a Brahmana, they are given in Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, everywhere. And when somebody who is not born in a so-called Brahmana family tries to become a Brahmana and wants to perform the duties of the Brahmana, Prabhupada writes here, the so-called Brahmanas will object. In fact, Prabhupada faced such a strong resistance that, how can you make people into Brahmana? Because in ISKCON, after first initiation, Harinam Diksha, we also have second initiation, which is called as Brahman Diksha. And this Brahman Diksha is given to anybody and everybody who follows certain criteria, that he is very well settled devotee in devotional service. He has shown inclination towards the activity of either preaching or deity worship. So these are the two major activities of a Brahmana. And if somebody has shown this inclination towards deity worship or preaching, and one is steadily a devotee, then he will be recommended for Brahman Diksha, and he will be in ISKCON, he will be awarded thread and everything. And this was very heavily objected. Nowadays, the Kali Yuga has become so dense and dark that people hardly bother. Nowadays, people curse themselves. Ki, "Kyun main Brahman family mein aa gaya karke." They are not getting, So the point here is that Prabhupada says, being a Brahmana, they will also lose the discrimination between what is eatable and non-eatable, and simply live to maintain the perishable material body and its families. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was completely different. Mahaprabhu, he announced, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kenenai, Ei Krishna Tattva Vetta, Sei Guru Hai. One may be born in a Kiba Vipra, maybe Sannyasi, Kiba Nyasi, one may be Brahmana, Sannyasi, or Shudra. If he is Krishna Tattva Vetta, he can be elevated to the position of Guru. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally, the prominent disciples of Mahaprabhu, here, Srila Prabhupada mentions Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur came from a Yavana family, but Mahaprabhu elevated him to the position of Namacharya Haridas Thakur. Ramananda Rai came from a Shudra family, but he was, the closest associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And even the Goswamis, because Goswamis, because of the historical reasons, they had to accept the service under Nawab Hussain Shah. So they were as such Bahishkrit, ostracized by the Brahmin community, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted them and elevated them to the first class devotees, first class Vaishnavas. So confidently, this ISKCON is the only place in the world I have seen, even amongst the Vaishnava Sampradayas, where the birth considerations are completely zero. One can be born one can be the American Christian or Pakistani Muslim. But one follows the principles of devotional service, and in between, I'm just giving you the extreme examples, and anybody in between. But when one follows the process of devotional service, path of Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and shows his commitment in ISKCON, he can be elevated to the highest position of of temple president and up to GBC. And this is not there even in other Vaishnava Sampradayas. To become the head of a Sampradaya, in most of the other, even Vaishnava Sampradayas, one has to be born in a Brahmin family, right? Like Shri Sampradaya, which is a very, very respectable Sampradaya, and they have their own reasons for their, rules and regulations. We are nobody to, not to speak of criticize, we have nobody to comment on them. But the point still remains that Mahaprabhu's this instruction, Kiba Vipra Kibanyasi Shudra Kenenai, Ei Krishna Tattvavetta, Sei Guru Hai, only and only ISKCON is following to its ultimate degree, right? So now Nandishvara, text 27. Tasyaivam vadata shapam shrutva dvijakulaya vai bhrugu prasyuchachapam brahmadandam duratyayam. Translation.
When all the hereditary Brahmanas were thus... Sorry, Mataji, go ahead.
When all the hereditary Brahmanas were thus cursed by Nandishvara, the sage Bhrigu, as a reaction, condemned the followers of Lord Shiva with his very strong Brahmanical curse. Purport: the word Duratyaya is particularly used in reference to Brahmananda or curse by Brahmana. Brahma Danda or curse by Brahmana. The curse by Brahmana is very strong, therefore it is called Duratyaya or insurmountable. As the Lord states in Bhagavad Gita, the stringent laws of nature are insurmountable. Similarly, if a curse is uttered by a Brahmana, that curse is also insurmountable. But Bhagavad Gita also says that the curses or benedictions of the material world are, after all, material creations. The Chaitanya Charitamrita confirms that which is accepted in this material world to be a benediction, and that which is taken to be a curse are both on the same platform because they are material. To get out of this material contamination, one should take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as recommended in Bhagavad Gita 7.14. Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. The best path is to transcend all material curses and benedictions and take shelter of the lotus of the Supreme Lord Krishna and remain in transcendental position. Persons who have taken shelter of Krishna are always peaceful. They are never cursed by anyone, nor do they attempt to curse anyone. That is transcendental position.
So now we enter the next section of this chapter, text 27 to 32. The Brahmanas, they began to curse the followers of Lord Shiva. Correct. Tasyevam vadatam shapam shrutva dijikulayavai. When all the hereditary Brahmanas, Prabhupada writes very clearly, were thus cursed by Nandishvara, the sage Bhrigu, as a reaction, condemned the followers of Lord Shiva in a very strong Brahminical curse, which is Brahmadandam Duratyayam. So this word, let us remember this word, Brahmadandam Duratyayam. This is going to come later also in one of the discussion. And there, very in a passing reference, Shukadeva Goswami says, and thus Ambarish could very easily counteract the curse of Durvasa, Brahmadanda Duratyayam, and he was about to go to the next pastime. Parikshit Maharaj says, oh, wait. Brahmadanda Duratyayam. He himself is also in a way suffering from Brahmadanda Duratyayam. And then he says, how did Ambarish, he counteracted Brahmadanda Duratyayam? Okay. So this word is going to come once again in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained, Duratyaya means very difficult to cross. In Brahmadanda, the curse of a Brahmana, curse of a qualified Brahmana, is very difficult to cross. And therefore it is called as insurmountable. Now, Duratyaya, Prabhupada says, is not new in the material world. In fact, Bhagavad Gita says, Daivi Hesha Gunamayi, Mama Maya Duratyaya. So there are two Duratyayas, two insurmountables. Brahmadanda Duratyaya, Mama Maya Duratyaya. But the solution is one. Mameva ye prapadyante, Mayam etam tarantite. But when one takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can very easily cross over not only Brahmadanda Duratyaya, even the material creation itself. Prabhupada says, material benedictions and material curse, they are all part of material creation. And by surrendering process to the Supreme Lord, one can very easily cross over both these Brahmadanda Duratyaya, Mama Maya Duratyaya. Text 28. Bhavavrtadhara ye ch tan samavrataah pashandisnaste bhavantu satshastra paripanthinah. Translation.
One who takes a vow to satisfy Lord Shiva or who follows such principles will certainly become an atheist and be diverted from transcendental spiritual injunctions. Purport. It is sometimes seen that devotees of Lord Shiva imitate the characteristics of Lord Shiva. For example, Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison. So some of the followers of Shiva imitate him and try to take intoxication like ganja or marijuana. Here, the curse is that if someone follows such principles, he must be an infidel and turn against the principles of Vedic regulations. It is said that such devotees of Lord Shiva will be Sat Shastra Paripanthina, which means opposed to the conclusion of Shastra or scriptures. This is confirmed in the Padma Purana also. Lord Shiva was ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to preach the impersonal or Mayavad, the philosophy for a particular purpose, just as Lord Buddha preached the philosophy of voidness for particular purposes mentioned in the Shastras. Sometimes it is necessary to preach a philosophical doctrine which is against the Vedic conclusion. In the Shiva Purana, it is stated that Lord Shiva said to Parvati that in the Kali Yuga, in the body of a Brahmana, he would preach the Mayavad philosophy. Thus, it is generally found that the worshippers of Lord Shiva are Mayavadi followers. Lord Shiva himself says, Mayavadam asat shastram. Asat shastra, as explained here, means the doctrine of Mayavad impersonalism or becoming one with the Supreme. Bhrigu Muni cursed that that persons who worshipped Lord Shiva would become followers of this Mayavad Asat Shastra, which attempts to establish that Supreme Personality of Godhead is impersonal. Besides that, among the worshippers of Lord Shiva, there is a section who live a devilish life. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and Narad Pancharatra are authorized scriptures that are considered Sat Shastra, or scriptures which lead one to the path of God realization. Asat Shastras are just the opposite. Hare Krishna.
Bhrigu Muni, he cursed. One who takes the vow to satisfy Lord Shiva, Bhava Vratadhara Yecha, will become Bhashandi and will become atheist and diverted from the transcendental scriptural injunctions. So this is always the problem with powerful Sanatana Dharma. And people are so powerful that they become powerful and start cursing each other, and thus they destroy each other. Okay. And the Maya will take over. Her powerful Nandishvara, he cursed. When the Brahmanas and powerful Brahmanas, they cursed the followers of Lord Shiva. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, sometimes the devotees of Lord Shiva, they try to imitate the activities of Lord Shiva. They say, oh, our God is doing, we will also do. And then they will be taking, typically they will take the bhang and ganja, marijuana. Okay. And thus, they become pashandi and turn against the principles of Vedic regulations. Sat Shastra Paripanthina, opposed to the conclusions of Shastra or scripture. And this is confirmed in Padma Puran and also in Shiva Puran, where Lord Shiva personally tells this to Mother Parvati, that in the Kali Yuga, I appear to spread this Asat Shastram. Mayavadam Asat Shastram, Prachannam Bauddham Uchyate, Mayeva Vihitan Devi, Kalau Brahmana Murtina. That, my dear Devi, goddess of fortune, goddess Durga, in the age of Kali, I take the form of a Brahmana. This is Adi Shankara, and explain the Vedas through the false scripture in an atheistic way, similar to Buddhist philosophy. Right? So this is Shankaracharya, who was born in the Malabar district of South India, and he propagated this philosophy of Mayavad. And Prabhupada says sometimes it is necessary to preach a philosophical doctrine which is against the Vedic conclusion. Why? Because those times, there was a Yagik Himsa was at peak. Therefore, Buddha came. Buddha preached that, there is no question of Vedas. Forget Vedas. Just Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. He did not use the word Dharma also. He said Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. And now, when Vedas were completely out of the people's life, Shankaracharya needed to reintroduce Vedas. And he did this phenomenal job of reintroducing Vedas and completely driving away Buddhism from the mainland India in just 20-24 years of his age. At the age of 8 years, he took sannyas. At the age of 32, he took samadhi, just went to the Shivaloka. And in just 24 years, it is phenomenal. Recently, I just came across some Buddhist literature, and they were lamenting. They were saying that अपने बुद्ध ने जितना काम किया, पता नहीं, this fellow came, Adi Shankara, and in just 24 years, he drove away Buddhism from the mainland India. Now, Buddhism exists somewhere in some corners of China, Tibet, and all that. But in the mainland India, but to do that, he had to preach a philosophy which was like covered Buddhism, but reintroducing Vedas in the people's lives. And therefore, Prabhupada says, sometimes it is necessary to preach a philosophical doctrine which is against the Vedic conclusion. So these are there are Sat Shastra and Asat Shastra. Sat Shastra means Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Narada Pancharatra, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. These are the Sat Shastra. Vishnu Purana, Brahmanda Purana, so on and so forth. But there are Asat Shastra, that means which will take person away from the Vedic conclusion, that is called as Asat Shastra. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Gaur-
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.